my exam at the bottom. Ben Robinson, he, him, Denver, and I am with Great Education Colorado. Great. We will kick off the first meeting of this new year with Great Education Colorado's vision, which is that through public education, every Colorado student, regardless of their zip code, learning needs, language, identities, or the color of their skin, graduates prepared to lead their best life. And we'll follow that up with our mission statement, which is Great Education Colorado harnesses the power of grassroots activism and diverse, inclusive networks to guarantee that public schools in every Colorado community are welcoming and adequately, equitably, and sustainably funded. All right. I will ask if you are not talking to please mute. All right. So our goal for GEC Advocates Network, as always, is to create a space for us to build community and take action together. We meet the second Tuesday of every month at 4:30. I will go ahead, just because it's easier than wrestling with the link right now, and send that to you all after we are done here. And our community commitments. First one is move up and move back. We want everybody to be able to have a chance to speak here. And in order for that to happen, we need to be conscious of how much we're talking. Number two here, no one knows everything, but together we know a lot. Let's learn together. We have teachers, we have former students. I think everybody here is a former student, but we have teachers. We have policymakers. We have people that do policy stuff behind the scenes, and we have activists, advocates, you name it. All of us bring a slightly different perspective to these meetings every month, and we are grateful for that. Number three, presuming positive intent, but acknowledging our impact. We are all here to do the same thing, which is to get to a point where our students and teachers have the resources that they need to succeed. In talking about some of these things, so that we talk about, some of them are kind of contentious. If somebody says something that makes you angry, or you do that to somebody else, our expectation here is that we settle that quickly and courteously so we can move on with our discussion. All right, we have a guest speaker tonight, but before I introduce him, before we dive in, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping, just because we are in the new year, and we had 12 of these meetings last year, which is a lot of time to think about what we like, what we don't like, what we would bring back, what we want to throw away, etc. So 2 questions here. We're not going to go into breakout rooms because I'm going to take notes. We just want to do this as a whole group discussion here. But what's something you want to see in Advocates Network in 2024 that you haven't seen before? So some examples below there, new in-person or virtual events, ways to get involved, discussion formats that are unlike what we've practiced so far, different issues to address. And then our second question is, what would you keep from 2023? So, the kinds of online actions we do, our meeting formats, those kinds of things. So take a minute, mull those questions over, and then in just about 30 seconds, I will start asking people to share out. All right. Any takers for either question? We don't have to go in order here, but would love to hear your feedback. And I'm actually going to go to the grid view here so we can all see each other. I know that people who have been here for more than 5 meetings, and I see a lot of you, have something to say. Sally, you look like you're thinking something over.
Oh, and I'm not on mute. The one thing the easiest thing for me is when we have a ballot, a petition. I don't know, because then it forces me to talk to people and try to educate them, but I don't know if we want to do that, so.
We are open to any and all ideas here. Thank you for that, Sally. Kathy.
I would like, whenever a new bill is coming through the legislative session, that's starting this week, if there's one that, seems particularly important, for education, if it can, I'd love to hear other people's, take on it. So I can get a greater perspective.
So introducing those bills in the meeting and learning what others have to say about them.
Yeah, even if it's just one bill, because with the onslaught, there might be a lot. But if there's one that somebody thinks is particularly important, that would be helpful.
Okay. That sounds like a really cool idea. Others?
This is Jan. I would have said the same thing. I get so many emails from different groups that are focusing on the same thing. So I can't say it's new for this group because maybe you're already doing it, but I like that alert, here you go, write your legislator, tell them what you want to tell them or call them. I like that.
Okay. Thank you, Jan. Others for, Duran?
So something that I'd like to see more of that I haven't seen really any groups do well is making sure that when we have retreats, when we have whatever it is, making sure that we hear the voices and do better work advocating for our children with special needs. I don't see it a whole lot. We tend to forget about that community a lot. And that's for me on a personal level, that's a really driving force as to one of the reasons why I do the work that I do. But that's something that a better job has to be done across the board, not just for grade ed, but for all organizations that say that they're all about inclusiveness. We have to remember everyone. I know it's not an easy thing, but it's definitely doable. And what would I take with me from 2023? Nothing. I want to leave it all back there. I got to move forward.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, I think coming into this year, it would be really nice to have the focus on specific communities. So like the disability, special needs communities in schools, and then also others as well. I think, we tend to paint with pretty broad strokes here. And in our advocacy, and we shoot for sort of big state level funding issues. And I think a lot of times that comes at the expense of more targeted outreach. Others? Let's go to Vanessa.
Yes. Actually, if you know ahead of time what bill is going, you got your eye on a bill that's coming up that you think is going to be important. What about giving us some advance notice that it's going to be talked about they can talk about it here and to give us homework. Say, go read this bill or read this comment on it before, so you can, bring that information to the meeting, because sometimes you walk into discussion and you don't really know enough about it to really talk. So you listen, which is good, but still, if you came in with some information to share, that'd be even better.
Okay. That's certainly, I think that's something we could certainly include like on one of the invite emails even, or we could do a smaller follow-up email, but we could certainly put that on an invite and email. And then even the people who are not participating in the discussion still have that information. Let us go Bev and then Paula.
When I was talking to some of the legislators earlier, they said this session, the BS factor would probably be brought down to zero. And I think it's important that we share the message out in the community that that's not solving all the education funding. That's only bringing us to the 1989 funding. So a lot of people think, okay, we've taken care of education, let's move on. That's it.
Great. Thank you. Paula?
Yeah, I'd like to offer, anybody who wants to, follow bills, you should go to Colorado Capital Watch and you can follow all the bills there. It's free and, easy. And I'd be glad to, share with whoever, wants to know. I follow all the bills every night. I'd be glad to give Great Ed a link and, add the bills and everybody can follow the bills on that link. I'd be glad to do that. That's number one. Number two, maybe you noticed in the Denver Post that there were some articles on alcoholism. I'd just like to point out that the state collects $280 million a year in marijuana tax and $56 million a year in alcohol tax. And I say, treat all sins equally.
That
Thank
could be a campaign. That could be an
Thank
ad.
you for
Paula.
laughing, because I thought that was a pretty good one.
It's good. No, I think that's great. Colorado Capital Watch is awesome. Something we could do with Colorado Capital Watch, maybe next meeting. We can obviously send that link out, but if anybody's having trouble, we can do like a quick 3 to 5 minute tutorial just on where everything is there. It is really easy to navigate, I think.
Thanks.
But it's a way that everyone here can plug in and find out what's going on. And then, maybe from that, we can start more conversations about the bills that people are interested in and that are of great consequence to public education.
Super.
Thank you. All right. What about things? So we've heard a lot of things that we want to do new. Is there anything that anybody wants to keep from last year? We heard petitions. That's cool. Those are not going anywhere. Don't worry. But any other the meeting format? We had multiple meeting formats last year. Was there one that you liked more than other? We used to do our listen, learn, lead thing a lot, and then we wound up doing our summer series, which was more of just sort of a traditional discussion every time we had one of these. We did that for about 4 months, I think. But yeah, other suggestions / things that you liked from last year, or obviously also want to change.
I like these meetings. I think they're often enough that people can't show up one week, they can show up the next week, next time. So I like this, and it's easy not to have to drive to Denver.
Yep. Great. Thank you, Jan. We will keep having these. So, and hopefully we'll keep seeing you here. Cool. One last pass. Anybody have any suggestions, comments, questions? All right. And Lisa just put in the chat that the state of state is Thursday, which is good. We'll talk about that later. Cool. All right. Well, I will go ahead. We have some really good ideas here, I think. A lot about bills.
Somebody wanted to speak. I just think you may not have seen them.
Sorry.
His name was Jerry.
Jerry, or do you have a suggestion for us?
Ben, can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry, one sec. I think Jerry might have been trying to talk.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm having some major Zoom issues, so I'm on twice, and I'm having problems. So don't worry about me right now.
Okay, gotcha, Jerry. Best of luck. Christy?
I'm with him. I'm having all kinds of problems. I really enjoy when we have guest speakers, and I do love our format.
Excellent. Cool. Thank you. All right. Exactly. Perfect segue. Well, speaking of guest speakers, we have one tonight. I'm going to go ahead and pull up my screen real quick to make a proper introduction here because I made slides for this. But let's see. All right. Because it is 2024, that means we have a new legislative session. Some of these things we sort of talked about last time when we asked what were going to be some of the themes of the session: property taxes, the BS factor, keeping K-12 funding front and center. So keeping a focus on those things, even as the narrative tries to shift itself elsewhere. And then also housing. And then not at this meeting, but at a next meeting, we will talk about potential bad ballot initiatives coming up. But to talk about sort of our fiscal context tonight, I would like to welcome Representative Chris deGruy Kennedy from House District 30. He's got some knowledge on the BS factor, sort of what they're doing in the legislature right now, and also that broader fiscal context for this legislative session. So Representative deGruy Kennedy, I will turn it over to you.
Well, thanks so much, Ben, and thank you all for inviting me and welcoming me tonight. I know I've been kind of popping on and off screen. I'm trying to do my fair share around the House before I fall back into a black hole tomorrow when the legislative session convenes, and so it's my turn to make dinner. And at about 5 o'clock, I'm going to have my 2.5-year-old daughter join me in the picture, who is not in K-12 schools yet, but I certainly intend to fix all of education before she starts in a few years. Just kidding. I know it's a longer work in progress. So I think there are a lot of things we can talk about. I may keep my introductory remarks a little bit briefer and then create a little more space for questions and some discussion towards the end of the call. I think that the first thing, someone asked in a comment or made a statement earlier that paying off the BS factor is not nearly enough. I couldn't agree more, and I think that there is a very large group of legislators who understand that very well. I have spoken with our communications director. I know that in the speaker's opening day remarks, she is not going to be characterizing paying off the BS factor as fully funding education. I'm a little more anxious about how the governor may be presenting it, but I know a lot of legislators are very focused on the long term and recognizing that it's a wonderful first step that we've finally stopped violating the Constitution when it comes to funding our K-12 schools. But yeah, getting back to 1989 levels is obviously not enough, especially when you compare things to the high cost of living that have, all around the state, but especially in the whole Denver metro area. Teachers simply cannot afford to live in the communities where they teach. And so if we're not grappling with what it means to pay teachers like the professionals that they are, such that they can live in these communities around these schools, we're not doing anything meaningful. And so I think it's wonderful that we're paying off the BS factor. I think we should absolutely celebrate that victory, 14 years in the making. That said, I do think the conditions have been set for that. And I don't think it's a big fight at this point in time. I think that it is as close to a foregone conclusion as is possible with the crazy dynamics of the Capitol that this will happen. We are going to pay off the BS factor this year, and we should celebrate that. But in the way that we talk about it, I'm hoping that all of you and everyone else who's an education advocate continues to talk about the longer term picture. And of course, that does intersect with the aforementioned bad ballot measures and everything that may or may not happen with tax policy on the ballot in Colorado. It is shameful, in my opinion, that the state has lowered the income tax twice in the last few years by ballot measure. And yet, even with the lowest income tax in state history since we've had a flat rate income tax, we had $3.6 billion above the Tabor surplus, which reveals the significance of the Tabor problem on our state budget. And so it's just, again, worth reflecting that we're paying off the BS factor, not because the state has figured anything out. It's because the local share. Now, I don't know if the statistic is out of date or not, but I know that at least 174 of the 178 school districts in Colorado have debruced, and that has allowed them to capitalize on the growth in property value and the growth in property tax revenue going to our schools. That increase in local share is entirely responsible for the fact that we are about to pay off the BS factor. It's about time the state does its share too. And so what that is going to look like over time is challenging. In the shorter term, it means continuing to prioritize state dollars, making sure that we are keeping up the investment so that it is sustainable over the longer term. But I also think it means we have to keep on grappling with Tabor and the revenue cap and the possibility of going for new revenue on a future ballot measure. Unfortunately, it seems like we're always playing defense. You know, I'm not going to get into the weeds on Proposition HH. It was a flawed concept, but had it passed, it would have provided significant relief to the Tabor cap over the longer term, allowing us to start meeting that state obligation to our K-12 schools. You know, in some ways, I'm relieved that we have an opportunity to start fresh, because there were some things about that I think were pretty problematic. And yet what we are seeing is that there are numerous ballot measures filed for the November ballot that would dramatically cap or lower income tax rates. I'm sorry, property tax rates, in a way that would be really, really damaging. One of them, cheekily enough, says this shall be done without cutting education funding, which is just not possible. It is pure BS. It is a messaging opportunity for them, and it is something that we have to fight very hard to defeat. I am serving on a property tax commission that was established by a bill in the special session. I'm serving on there with Chris Hansen, 2 Republican legislators, and numerous county commissioners and other local government officials. We've had a couple meetings so far to kind of level set and try to see what the state's response to the continuing pressure from high property taxes is going to be. And it's too soon to tell what everyone else's perspective is going to be, but I do know that there is an awful lot of conversation about local control and how for the state to impose property tax reductions on local districts and then come up with these convoluted backfill formulas is a pretty bad solution. I'll tell you that I've heard more than an earful from my own fire chief and from our county commissioners. So my hope is that for the most part, we say for counties, for cities that depend on property tax, for special districts, go back to local control. Let your local governments grapple with this question of how much revenue they need to provide the services that the people depend on and how that impacts the financial well-being of their constituents. But for education, I am dead set against lowering or capping property taxes. We have to maintain that until we come up with a longer term replacement. And even then, I'm not sure that that is the most sensible policy. So I think that we need to do what we can to preserve that property tax revenue for our school districts and continue to propose new ideas of how we go after Tabor, either by trying to change the cap, or what I believe is the best solution would be replacing the Colorado flat income tax with a progressive income tax, where we ask the wealthiest Coloradans to pay more of their fair share so that we can maintain adequate funding for our schools. It's easy to say that because, as all of you know, Tabor's been around for 32 years, and even the biggest bite we've taken out of it with referendum C was just barely nibbling around the edges. And so there's a lot more work to be done. This is going to take coalitions that commit multiple years. I know Lisa has been part of several of these over her time at Great Ed and is going to continue that work. But I'm hopeful that there will be a time that with our persistence, with our creative thinking, that we will find that moment where we're able to break through and fix the things that are backwards about the state income tax structure so that we can do more of our share to not only adequately fund K-12 education, but do a heck of a lot more for early childhood and higher education, not to mention numerous other state priorities that are not directly related to education. So just to summarize, and then I'll pause for questions and discussion here. We're going to pay off the BS factor. That's great. And then there's the next thing. And so our work will continue. I'm in my last year in the legislature, but I very much hope that in my post-legislative career, I get to continue doing this kind of work with all of you, because trying to do something about Tabor has been a passion of mine since well before I was in the legislature, and I intend to continue that work for the rest of my career or until we fix it. So.
Great. Thank you, Representative. Questions?
Forgive
There's
me, I'm
one in the
stirring
chat,
something
Ben.
on the stove here.
Oh, you're good.
Ben, there's one in the chat.
Okay, so this is from Duran. So I think this was very recent. This was just a minute ago. So it says, I get that, but what about when higher
Yeah.
property taxes push people out of their homes?
Yeah, I mean, it's a real balancing act. I want to be crystal clear about this. Just because I support higher property taxes in general and believe that they are necessary for adequate K-12 education funding, it doesn't mean that it doesn't carry real financial challenge for a lot of people, including seniors and working families. I believe that the state's response to this needs to be not through meddling with the property tax code, but instead to use very targeted income tax credits. At least for the near term, until we are able to do something meaningful about Tabor, we're looking at least $2 billion, maybe not at least, but in a ballpark of $2 billion a year of Tabor surplus. And right now, law has that distributed in a very regressive way, where it gives thousands of dollars back to the wealthiest income brackets and a lot smaller of an amount to lower income brackets. So both by adjusting the fairness of the Tabor refund mechanisms, as we did for 1 year during the special session, and by doing things like the earned income tax credit and the child tax credit that have a really significant benefit on the lowest income families, and continuing to figure out creative ways to do tax credit policies for middle income families, I think that is the solution, because those are state dollars. Those are state dollars we have to refund to taxpayers anyway. We can refund it a lot more fairly so that it provides the supports people need to afford to stay in their homes. And that should include renters as well.
Thank you. Lisa Weil.
You alluded to this, and I just want to hear what your take is about what the legislature is going to do about that surplus. It is incredibly painful, as you pointed out, to watch these the surpluses be rebated at the same time that we are $10 billion behind what we were supposed to do. And as we've discussed, that's to get us back to 1989 levels. What is the legislature looking at for the doing with the surplus, and how can we help you use it in the best possible way?
I think that space is ripe for new big ideas. My opinion is that we need to think about how we balance both funding needs of the state with the economic security needs of lower income and middle income Coloradans. But with $2 billion, there's a fair amount to go around. So like I said, I do think that there will be some income tax credit policies that come forward this session. There will be talk about the refund mechanism distribution. But I think that there are some ideas, including some that have been proposed by Great Education Colorado in the past, that would offer a question to voters about, do you want to dedicate a share of these dollars to education instead of having us refund them to people who maybe don't need them so much? I don't think that the die is cast there. I think what's really hard about this is that the governor's not really with us on these issues. And while he's certainly going to celebrate paying off the BS factor, I think that it's going to be hard to push him to want to do more. So I think a lot of these conversations are going to happen at the ballot. And even without the governor, anything that would spend those Tabor dollars is going to happen at the ballot. So I think that there are legislators that are talking regularly with advocates about the ideas that we could try to move forward and brainstorming to come up with the best ideas out there.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Other questions? Yeah, so see, Jerry just put in the chat here, and we could pretty easily turn this into a question. Every time, we talk about reducing Tabor refunds or reallocating Tabor refunds, whatever it is, there are cries of taking money from the taxpayers, right? I think that's a great point. I think it's something we encounter every time we try to put something on the ballot at Great Ed, pretty much. But we've talked about that a lot, and basically our answer is that that's always going to happen, right? Like the right is always going to find some way to cast it that way. But Representative, I guess to your mind, when you look at it as a legislator, what's the most palatable way to put it to people? And maybe by extension, the most effective way to market it?
It's a really difficult question. I think that it is hard. I think that going after the Tabor cap is really hard. One of the things I would say is, Doug Bruce didn't get Tabor passed in 1992 by some act of genius. He did it through persistence and stumbling across the perfect storm. I mean, yeah, I actually wrote my master's thesis about why Tabor passed, and many of you know Carol Hedges. She kind of pointed me in the direction of the impact Ross Perot had on the 1992 electorate, and it's crazy how things like that no one could predict 2 years away have such a profound impact. So I would say there are times where we just need to be persistent and keep on trying again and failing forward. All that said, that challenge is part of the reason I'm so strongly in favor of going after a progressive income tax. I think that there is something to be said about a fairness angle and talking to voters about who needs Tabor refunds and who doesn't, and is there a better way to structure the system so that the people who need more money in their pocket aren't paying the taxes in the first place and have it year round for their needs, but then the wealthiest people are paying their fair share. I'm not saying that that's a silver bullet, but there is a lot of research showing how popular policies like that are, including among wealthier Coloradans who recognize that it's their responsibility to pay more of their fair share. And, Joe Biden, who is hardly the most, progressive president we've ever had, talks about this boldly and powerfully in a basic pro-worker, pro-working family way that I think is persuasive to a lot of people. So I think that something like that is what we should be setting as our next big idea. But I don't think that should necessarily stop us from trying other things in the meantime.
Great, thank you. Other questions?
There are some comments in the chat.
So yeah, Christy says in the chat, I firmly believe Initiative 61, which I think is supposed to be Initiative 63, would have passed if it had been brought to the ballot, and we just didn't have the money to get it there. Obviously, we were trying a signature gathering effort for that. That's complicated a lot by funding. That's something, an obstacle we've run into in the past. Representative, you mentioned that the income tax is something that you would like to pursue. Like, is there an appetite for that in the legislature currently? Like, if some group showed up and wanted to refer something like that, is the legislature going to help out with that? Is it going to be really, really hard? What's your take on that?
Changing the income tax structure requires a constitutional amendment, which means 2/3 of both chambers, which means in the Senate, we'd need every single Democrat plus one Republican. That is probably too high of a bar. And even in the House, I don't know. I mean, I tend to think we could get, we've got 46 Democrats. I tend to think we could get 44 for something like this, but it's hard to know. We're also grappling with a little bit of dysfunction these days, and so that can impact things. It's not to say, like, I've often wondered what's the harm in trying. If we believe in what we're doing, if we believe in the message, what's the harm in giving it a shot and seeing what happens? I think that the harm is it eats up airtime and political capital at the Capitol, no pun intended. But it's just, it doesn't, maybe that's not such a harm that we shouldn't try it anyway. I'm also looking at the chat, so I can jump on a couple of these things directly. Paula, hey, it's good to see you. I've known Paula Noonan for a very long time. I can't speak to the governor's beliefs and why he believes what he believes, except to say that it seems that he is very fond of right-wing economists and certain kinds of free market political ideologies. I don't know if you guys followed what he did with Art Laffer over the course of the last few months, but it's pretty embarrassing, honestly. So I think it's a challenge to overcome, but we've got 3 more years with this governor, and then there'll be a contest to see who is the next governor of Colorado, and let's hope that we can all throw our support behind someone who really supports doing what we need to do about tax policy so that we can really fund education. Let's see. I think that that captures most of what we've talked about here.
What's the best way we can support you in your efforts in the legislature?
Organize, organize, organize. It's all about organized voices. So you guys are already through the first few steps of creating an organized structure here. I mean, a lot of us know and trust Lisa very, very much and talk to her all the time. And so, you know, we'll be channeling with her and helping kind of strategize about the best ways to engage. But, you know, come testify in support of paying off the BS factor. I've got a special guest joining me, by the way. But yeah, come testify, but also, you know, use smart messaging about it. And I know you guys have some of that at your disposal too. Talk about how great it is that we're paying off the BS factor and how much further we need to go. And then when it comes time for the next big ballot measure, whatever that may be, let's get out there. Let's circulate petitions. Let's raise money. Let's knock doors. Let's do the whole thing and do what it takes to win.
Thank you.
That little person? I think that little person is you.
Hello. Are there other questions?
I probably need to run. I apologize if you guys were counting on me taking up more of
No,
your
you're good.
time today, but
We do have just one last thing. I know that the State of the State is coming up on Thursday.
yeah,
We're gonna planning on running a little effort on Twitter.
Great.
I know, you know, you and Lisa have been sort of talking about that, so
yeah,
I will go ahead and relay that information to everyone. We will go ahead and make our voices heard.
wonderful. Please do. We need you.
All right. Thank you very much, Representative deGruy Kennedy.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye. All right. That gives us a good segue to the State of the State address, which is going to be happening this Thursday. Lisa, do you know if is it like 9 a.m., 10 a.m., something like that?
I believe it's 10 a.m. Traditionally, I don't know specifically this year, but we'll let everybody know.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, to sort of piggyback on what we've been talking about, though, like there are some definitely good things about buying down the BS factor, but you know, even to call it a temporary fix is inaccurate because we're not addressing the deficits, right? All the way that we need to be, or even part of the way. We're just sort of filling in part of the whole. So what we are planning to do this Thursday is at Great Ed. We will be very active on Twitter. We're going to write a series of tweets with the hashtag #CoLeg. So that is the hashtag that you want to use on Twitter. You may be familiar with it already. If you want to be in the conversation, whatever the conversation is at the Capitol. So we're going to write a series of tweets with that hashtag. You know, when they start mentioning the BS factor, it sounds like the speaker might not be saying that this is the cure-all, this is the silver bullet. But even if they're not saying that, we need to be saying the things that they're not saying, which are going to be, this doesn't even scratch the surface, right? So we want you to be aware of that. Our Twitter, I will go ahead and put our Twitter handle in the chat here so that you can have access to that. And then Lisa, I don't know if you want to say a few more things about it before you have to get off in a couple minutes.
Yeah, this is not just a one-day effort. As it stands right now, as we look at the legislative session, having that, using the paying off of the BS factor as our launching point to raise the issue of how much more needs to get done. We will be Our plan right now is to ask folks to write to their legislators as the months go on before the actual payoff of the BS factor will happen with the long bill in April. So in the meantime, we want to have people writing to their legislators, meeting with their legislators to say, you get that the end to the BS factor is not full funding, right? We want to have as many people make that statement as publicly as possible, maybe even with a resolution. We'll have to see if we can find some interest in that. But that's a lot of what we're going to do because we have to change that narrative. We all know how difficult it has been to overcome the, hey, we already spent all that money on marijuana narrative. This is another one that's just too easy. And I wanted to just let folks know about a couple other things. One is that the School Finance Task Force is going to have its report come out. And even though it was a bipartisan group of people who made the recommendations that are coming out of that task force, at minimum, it'd be $474 million a year increase. It's too little, and we have a couple of minority reports that'll come out to make that case. But so that's one thing that's going to come out to help us bolster our argument, is that there will be the task force that comes out. And the other thing is that we are working to make sure that the adequacy study that got put in the School Finance Act last year gets a supplemental appropriation, so that at the end of this year, we'll get data, or early next year, we'll get data about what it actually costs to help every student, no matter where they live and how they learn, to and their background, to reach standards. And so we have to take these steps that give us momentum and to really change that narrative. It's really critical that we take this opportunity. See you, Ronnie.
So I guess my question is around, why aren't we getting away from standards-based testing? Because the research shows and statistics show that they're racially biased, they're biased as it pertains to people with a different socioeconomic background, they're biased for children that have neurological disabilities and are neurodiverse, all of those things. So why aren't we, if we're going to push for legislation, why aren't we pushing for legislation that says we understand that having standards-based testing is not creating success for our students, and it's not creating an environment where they can thrive? Why aren't we doing that?
Ronnie, that is a really great question. And I think there are a number of people on this call who would applaud everything that you just said. For the adequacy study, for that specific reason, the way to it is, thank you, Jerry. The standards is what the law is now, and that's what an adequacy study needs to look at, is under current law, what would it take to meet these needs? But that other issue is certainly out there, is what's the best way, what is the most equitable way to promote the best interests of all of our students, not just some of them. So much appreciated comments. I'm going to have to go here, but the last thing that I wanted to mention is that a ballot measure was introduced. Am I on?
You just turned off your camera, but you are.
I did. I couldn't tell. Everybody seems to be frozen, so I thought I'd turn off my camera to be sure. On Friday, there was a new ballot measure introduced that would give a constitutional right of student choice and parent choice, that would inevitably would just completely undermine public education. Don't know if it's going to be if they're going to go to get signatures, but all indications are that they will. And so we may be, if not gathering our own signatures, working on a robust decline to sign campaign that really gets across, that gives us the opportunity to talk about the importance of education as a community good, not as a commodity.
Thank you, Lisa. Oh, Lisa, you muted yourself. Lisa, you're still muted.
With all that happiness and happy news, actually it is. We can use this. It's a jujitsu move that we can take all of this energy and use it to promote public education. But I have to take my leave and thank you all for participating again.
All right. Thank you very much, Lisa. Have fun in DC. All right. So the only thing we have left tonight on our little formal agenda here is something we've been talking about for the past couple months, which is the Every Student Welcome Network. We have our pledge that we would love for you to sign if you have not already. We have a goal. I cannot remember exactly the percentage of people that in our advocacy space that we want to sign it. But if you have not put your name on that yet, we would absolutely love for that to happen. That's sort of the brainchild of Lisa, and then also Kristen, who is on the call right now, has taken over a lot of that in the past month or so, and she will continue to spearhead that until her time's up here in May. She's a fellow. We're not getting rid of her for any other reason. Don't worry. So I will go ahead and put that link. Oh, just kidding. Kristen already put it in the chat. So if you could just take a minute, open that, sign it, and we will have more information, a progress update very soon, hopefully by next meeting. Other than that, it's been great seeing you all. We had a great turnout tonight. Thanks for sticking around and asking great questions of our guest speaker. And I'll go ahead and stay on for just a few minutes, but if you need to take off, you can take off, and we will see you in February.